Welcome to another episode of the Executive Hub Show, the show that helps you grow your business with tips, strategies, and actionable advice from successful entrepreneurs. My guest today is Thomas Gaydos. Welcome, Thomas.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Good to see you. And we're talking about how to find, hire, and utilize a fractional CMO. Let me do the proper introduction for Thomas, and we're going to dive into a very interesting conversation about marketing and everything related to that. So, Thomas Gaydos, founder of On-Call CMO, brings over 25 years of marketing expertise to the SaaS and emerging tech space. On-Call CMO specializes in offering foundational investor and GTM strategic marketing leadership to early stage SaaS companies. His achievements include driving over $100 million in contracted revenue as the foundational marketer for a startup, Evolve IP, a 160% revenue turnaround for a global system integrator, and leading enterprise scales RevUps projects for companies like GE, Sprint, Tenet, and Tenet Healthcare. His upcoming book, The Fractional CMO Playbook, releases on April 29th, focusing on how organizations can effectively find, hire, and utilize a fractional marketing leader. Thomas, how's your day so far?
Pretty good. It's been a busy one.
Fantastic. And where about are you?
I am located right outside of Philadelphia in a town called Conshohocken. So I'm from the Philadelphia area.
Small town?
It's a small town. It was an old steel town that has matured and gotten a lot of investment recently. And I grew up in Philadelphia, in the Frankfurt section of Philadelphia, so I was looking for that kind of neighborhood feel. And my wife and I moved here about 10 years ago and have been loving it.
Fantastic. So let's dive into it. Thomas, what is your story?
Oh man, so I took an interesting path to marketing leadership. I was a communications major, and I think a lot of communications majors in college end up all over the place because everyone always says, "What are you going to do with that degree?" Apparently, marketing strategy and technology. So I actually came out of school as a web developer. Went into more of the programming side of things and realized that data and programming and analytics was going to be the future. Learned a lot of programming languages. I learned six programming languages, a couple database formats, and how all the underpinnings worked, and really became a web developer, e-commerce developer. We were doing some of our own CMSs and custom websites with chats built into them way back in the day before any of this stuff was commonplace. It was really innovative at a place called ATX Communications. And but then that telecom, it was actually a huge telecom, their marketing department needed Eloqua. And that made me realize that, when they were asking questions about that, our web development group was helping them with some of the install and some of the emails and whatnot. I was like, oh, marketers need nerds. Like marketers need geeks. Marketers need people that understand data. So then just decided to go into marketing, like re-embrace the creative side of things along with the geekery. And then took a marketing role just as a marketing manager. Was given was bought on to Evolve IP. What you mentioned, that was in the first six years. We did have over $100 million in contracted revenue. We were at about, I believe, an $85 million actually ARR at that point. But that was a lot of the leadership from ATX that went and started this new fangled, software as a service based communications firm. It wasn't even called the cloud yet at that point. So when they pulled me as the foundational marketer, they were like, we need a marketer that can do all the things, but also understands emerging tech in this space. That was an incredible experience. I was thrown into the deep end. I didn't know what I was doing with a lot of this stuff with, investor meetings and all of these things. So I was drinking from a fire hose, but man, some great mentors at that company. It was like Philly Giants, Tom Gravina, Guy Fardo, and Tim Allen, Scott Kinka. They're now at Bridgepoint Technologies. Tom Gravina is doing his investor thing as always, but just a great group. So I learned a lot there. And that was just, those were two different situations where I just got to learn and experience and be thrust into or pushed into a leadership position before I was probably ready to. But that then prepared me for what was next. I went into consulting then, and I decided to test after Evolve IP, to test my mettle. And can I consult with these large companies? Does this marketing automation and marketing strategy knowledge I've gained actually scale? Fortunately, it did. I had a lot of great mentors there as well to help me, become a proper consultant. But that, by the time they were purchased by IBM, I moved on to a retailer for a brief time, t-shirt retailer called Rush Order Tees. Awesome company, just wasn't the right fit for me. And then went on to my CMO position at McFadden Digital, where I was for 8 years. And that was just a great experience too. I mean, just awesome company doing some really innovative things in the e-commerce and marketplace, online marketplace space. And that was a turnaround. They had the rug pulled out from under them by Cloud Commerce. Their particular vendor, or Oracle, that they were associated with, didn't make that transition very well and kind of screwed their entire SI base. And it was a challenge. Working with Tom McFadden there, just a super smart individual. We had to pivot from just what we had been doing to this new model of e-commerce. Ended up expanding into online marketplaces, doing the whole disruptive marketing thing. It was just a really good experience. And then just parted ways with them in December and decided to start my own thing. Launched that. That's been going well for the past 3 months. I've got a startup launching that I'm working with on Monday. Another one will launch later this year. So it's been a journey, but it's been an exciting one with a lot of really cool people along the way.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Great story there. So, what do you do now? Who do you serve, and what do you do for them?
Well, On-Call CMO was really founded to help mostly not just true startups, not just like seed and pre-seed, but really Series A, Series B. There's just a lot of companies out there that are looking to save money pretty much wherever they can, but especially on the startup and emerging side, they spend too much on marketing early. And that's a weird thing for a marketer to say, but it's they don't spend it in the right places. And it's when a startup, there's different foundational marketing. There's, what stage are you? Are you looking for investors? Are you going to market first with a bootstrap? You have to right size that. You have to figure that out. I saw a lot of companies just flailing and not being able to do that. And then a lot of people trying to help them, but like, hey, give us $20,000 and we'll develop your entire go-to-market strategy. It's like, they don't have the money for that at that point. So I just basically saw a need in the market for, someone like me to go in and help these startups at, a rate that they can afford and a model that makes sense for them. And then with the knowledge that I possess of just, having done some of these things before, I can help them, avoid some of the mistakes that I've seen, avoid some of the, just areas where I've spent more time earlier in a company where you shouldn't have, and, where to direct your resources and your spend. So that's pretty much where I landed. Really working mostly now with software as a service startups in the, seed Series A. And then I have some advisory clients as well that range from, going into B and are literally just looking for a different voice and somebody to give additional perspective to their existing leaders. And then some that are really just considering, they're in the phase of building their business case and looking for investors and just need a marketer that's done it before to say, yes, do this. No, don't do this. This is how you need to present to this audience versus this audience, and just give best practices. So it's been an interesting journey so far. And then I do have, some retainer clients, and some are just like, hey, I just need a couple hours here and there. And some will need a content project. So there's just a lot of needs out there. And it's, that's the area that I'm focusing on, though. And the people that I'm looking to help is
Fantastic.
Early stage.
Fantastic. Give us an example of a client that you work with and how you found them, and what was kind of the challenge that these guys were dealing with.
So this is a cool story, actually, and timely. We're going live on Monday. There's a company called Conforma, Conforma. It's spelled like it sounds. And they're based out of Media, Pennsylvania, so not about 30 miles from where I'm sitting right now. And I hadn't met them until I think it was 4 or 5 weeks ago. I just happened to connect with an individual on LinkedIn named Bill Goodwin of Goodwin Design Group, which is a great product marketing firm in the United States, yes, in the Philadelphia area. And he introduced me to the founders, to Sophia and Sham, the founders of Conforma. They had just parted ways with a fractional CMO and were looking to go live very soon and needed somebody. And Bill and I had a quick conversation. He was like, you're what they're looking for. You need to have a conversation with them. So it was literally just networking on LinkedIn. And I try to do that with, at least 4 or 5 people every week, and try to at least connect and have a conversation with a couple of them. that was both fodder for the book and just my own edification. And just, I like to connect with, new, interesting people all the time. And that just really happened. Like, we just really had a connection immediately. He's part of the advisory board for Conforma, an investor, helping them with their investor strategy and some stuff, some other stuff. So it was just a really good, serendipitous connection that the two of us made. And what Conforma does is, there's a lot of text out there. There's a lot of investment has been made in text-based content that is then really not optimized. It just sits there as a blog, or it sits there in a knowledge base, or in an educational forum. And it's not all it could be, because it costs so much to do that with every blog and every text piece of content you have.
Yeah.
So with Conforma, you just copy and paste in the pre-formatted, just real basic plain text formatting of approved copy, something that you want to transform. Set your brand kit with your logo. There's going to be options for colors and fonts and some other stuff in a couple of weeks. And then you set your brand kit preferences, and then your transformation preferences. What type of graphics do you want this to be? What type of audio? What type of video? And then you hit the go button, and within the next 10 minutes, you start to see your assets appear, and it translates that and transforms that plain text into an infographic, into a video, with narration, with audio, with matched stock video and stock images, doing the pan and scan thing behind it. Matches very, very well. It's pulling from the deep Getty Images library, so it's really cool. And then audio, so you basically get an audio book version of it. But what that applies to is pretty wide and pretty broad. It applies to marketers. There's obviously marketing use cases for that. There's also compliance use cases for that. This is it's compatible with screen readers, accessibility devices. So you have a vision impaired person going and crawling a site. You now have audio versions of everything in there that is a lot better than the native screen reader kind of robotic voices that are built into most of these tools. And anybody that's also their companions also have full multimedia experience within this this website for the blind, essentially.
Fantastic.
But then there's also knowledge management, right? Education, knowledge management aspects of that. So it's a really novel thing, and it doesn't require any design skills. And it's one of the few things that I've actually seen AI agents do automated without intervention, which is kind of the dream. So just working with them is really nice. And that's the Conforma story of how it's launching and how I met them. Just a really cool background to that. So I would like everybody to visit conforma.ai. The site is not up yet. The site's going to be live by the weekend, but we're going live Monday.
Is this going to be any different compared to like Blaze and other AI tools that are out there?
It's interesting that you mentioned them, because they're in the same space, but they do things a little bit differently. Like Conforma would live side by side with like a Blaze and a Canva. I look at more of Blaze is more like a typeset, and that they're kind of like shortcut framework tools that are designed to get things out there quickly, each with their own bent, obviously. Canva's obviously its own thing. I see Blaze trying to go at Canva in advertisements, and it's like, what are you doing? You can use both tools. But no, this would sit in a stack and in a process alongside of a lot of these tools, because it is kind of a new thing.
And so they do things, I think, a little different in their own way.
Well, and it's not designed. This is not a tool that's designed to be, you're going to then sit there and obsess about the details of it and arrange the minutia to the nth degree. This is a tool designed to say, I have text. It needs to be other formats. I need it to do it quickly, and I need it to do it at a high level of quality. But it's not worth spending, $2,000, $3,000 for a content package and then send it to my web designer to then embed. No, I'll just use this tool that for a couple $100 lets me do this 8 times a month, or for $600 lets me do 22 of these a month. It's a tool to get scale from text to multimedia. And then all the ramifications that comes with that. There's a lot of deep discovery that AI does and whatnot, and SEO considerations and things like that.
Fantastic. What do you do with Conforma? What's your role with them?
So my role is their chief marketing officer. So this is where the fractional chief marketing officer model comes into play for a startup. Whereas, hiring somebody at, the average chief marketing officer in the US, I think ranges from 200,000 upwards of 300,000, carries overhead, needs bonus, things like that. instead of worrying about those costs, you just hire somebody on an hourly basis that already has a framework to work within this model.
And
So
that's what you do with your clients.
that's the primary thing that I'm looking for, is to do this retainer based, actual where I'm functionally your chief marketing officer. I think that's the most value.
So it's not a full-time position. You kind of work as an advisor, or is that how it works?
Well, an advisor, I consider advisory clients of my practice more along the lines of like 20 hours or less per month, because there's only so much you can realistically do, right? I have clients that can just go book an hour or two if they want to, whenever they want, with a reasonable notice. And that's fine. If they need an hour or two, that's more advisory. I'm taking in what they're giving me. I'm advising them based on my experience in terms of like what steps to take next. Sometimes it's more of like a 3 or 4 hour session, and I'll have an output from that. That's more the advisory. This is more full on, participatory strategic advisory. This is a replacement for a traditional CMO role. You just need to be a lot more focused on the delegation aspects. Like when I was a full-timer, there was a lot more things that I could just take and wrap my arms around. And if I wanted to own it, I could. That's a good and a bad thing. That can make you a bottleneck as a leader. If you're capable of doing a lot of things, you might then take some things that you probably should delegate to make the best use of your time. This role, when you're only 60, 80 hours a month, instead of having that full, 160, or let's be honest, more if you're salaried, this forces you to be more efficient. It's definitely a better delegator.
Absolutely. And it's worth it, I think, in a lot of cases where companies can't afford to have someone full time. I think they could work with someone like you who has a framework, who knows what he's doing. And
exactly. And that's and one of the other benefits, I mean, the financial benefits from companies, and this has been articulated to me by most of the folks that I've spoken with, whether they've hired me or not, is that the benefit is that the actual benefits they have to pay for a full-time employee. You think about the total compensation in terms of base comp, and then people think, oh, well, equity or stock options on top of that for most executives. There's going to be a bonus in there too, 20%, maybe up to 30%, depending on arrangement. That really starts to add up. And then you layer in health, you layer in dental, you layer in vision, you layer in the 401k matching and all that stuff. And that really inflates the cost of a full-time marketing executive more than you would think. And then the fractional model, it's going to be, when you break it down, more per hour versus a base salary. Yeah, it's going to cost more. But when you look at all of that overhead and all of the other things, it is such a cost savings. And then also factor in that's only, it's 60 or 80 hours or 100 hours against the full 160 or the full-time employee. It just does make a lot of financial sense.
fantastic. So how did you end up writing a book about this?
Well, one of the things that I realized when I decided to start this agency about in the beginning of December, it was about the time I parted ways with McFadden Digital, and just really wanted to go my own way. And I had really thought about it before then and started talking to people about this model really back probably about September of last year. I've now spoken with, I actually tallied it up. I realized right before I wrote the book that I'd already spoken with 70 or 80 people that operate in a similar-ish model, not all marketers, but generally executives doing the fractional thing. And I just had pages and pages of notes. And then when I actually started talking to folks about me operating in this model, they had so many questions that were just like, I understand. They intellectually understood why this would make sense, right? Just for a lot of the reasons I said. These are competent business people. They intellectually just got a lot of it immediately. But then they started asking very practical logistical questions. Well, since you're not going to be full-time, your availability isn't full-time. So how do we work with basically time blocking, scheduling? Then it got into, well, what if we have an emergency? What if we need you more time 1 month? What if we find that we've overcommitted? There's basically, it sounds like we have to have our ducks in a row as a company a lot more to hire a fractional person than it does to bring on a full-time person. And I found that an odd question, because I actually don't think so. I think it's fractional. It's more of an operating model than it is like things you need to have before hiring the person. It's that person gets in there and then starts their organizational process. That's what will be different between a full-time and a fractional person. But the fact that they were asking all of these questions that were things that I had considered fundamental to working with consultants, just because I had worked with a lot of consultants and I'd been the consultant before. I was like, oh, the folks, I was looking at the fractional CMO books that were out there, and almost every single one of them was written to benefit me, how to be a fractional CMO, how to stand up an agency. I was like, why don't I write one just flip it around and write it from the other side of like, what would be the ideal of how you would be working with me to maximize my time, not frustrate me, which is going to also maximize your dollars and not frustrate you. And then it just, I've authored books before, but co-authored when I was at McFadden Digital, so I know the process. And I just decided this is something I can do on my own. I'm running my own agency now. I can carve whatever time I want out per week to go and do this. So why not? And just started putting it together. And as soon as I had the outline off and running, and it's about 110, 120 pages of what I think is pretty solid advice.
Fantastic. And who's your audience for the book? Who is it good for? Who should
My
read it?
audience is really anyone that would be considering hiring a fractional CMO, which in my mind is mostly on the startup side of the spectrum or earlier side of the spectrum in terms of like company growth. So it's really written for founders of startups, anywhere up to really people, leaders in emerging companies that are struggling with their marketing or their marketing strategy and trying to figure out how to do more with less. And just with the way that, the economy has been going, and there's just more of a push for profit and more of a push to profit with less employees, right? That average profit, that average revenue per head is expected to be higher now. And one of the places that companies can cut there is middle management, because a lot of companies are bloated in the middle. And another one is at the top, because a lot of companies are unfortunately bloated at the top. And I think the fractional model, not just for marketing, but for other roles as well, for a certain profile of company, for that probably 250, 300 maybe or lower headcount, probably 20 to 30 million dollars on the upper end before you really need to like hire a full-time person. So it's for anybody in there that's just curious about the model and saying, I don't know if I can make this work. Well, read the book, and if that horrifies you, don't try and make it work. If it sounds good, then go and use the advice and search somebody like me out and start to engage.
Interesting. So when is the book coming out again?
The book releases on April 29th.
April. Is it going to be on Amazon, or where are you?
This is an Amazon release. I have another one that I'm working on with a partner that's going to be focusing on how to implement AI within a marketing team. That's going to come out in Q3 or Q4 of this year. That one we might go through a publisher. There's been a little bit of interest, but this one I just wanted to self-publish. So this is just going to be Amazon. And if you go to oncallcmo.us/book, there's a link right now to the pre-order for the Kindle version. There is also a print version. And on Monday, there will also be a website live. I forget what the URL.
Yeah, so it's called. So if people want to get that, it's oncallcmo.us/book.
And that'll just take you to the Amazon site. Exactly. There it is in the chat. Thank you. And that will then relay to the full website itself, which is going to have the table of contents and preview pages and a proper site. But we had this a little bit before I got that ready.
Fantastic. So what's your plan for launching the book? Is this just an Amazon launch, or are you doing other stuff for your book launch?
Oh, it's an Amazon launch, and I'm ordering, I'm going to have a handful of copies myself, probably, or 50, 60 copies myself, just to have to give to folks. But it's being promoted just on social media. I am doing some paid promo as well. There's some other podcasts and whatnot that I'll be doing over the next year. There's some speaking engagements at some conferences coming up in the e-commerce marketplace and marketing space off of this, and then actually later in the year off of the AI one that I floated some abstracts too. So it'll be interesting. But so far there's 4 podcasts scheduled over the next 2 months, and then just the social
beautiful
email launch.
Beautiful. And then so it's going to be available in Kindle and print version, I'm guessing.
And print version, yes. And it's $2.99 and $8.99 each. And then I'll be running free. You get a certain, when anyone on the KDP platform knows, you get a certain amount of free days. I think it's 5 free days to offer your book up for free or discounted in whatever way you want to per quarter. So I'll certainly be doing that. So for launch, you want a free copy, go and you'll be able to download the Kindle copy for free. You still have to pay for the print version, but if you want a free Kindle version, it'll
Yeah.
be there.
Love it. Great. That's amazing. Um, what, Tom, what would you say are like the top 3 skills that have helped you in your career?
That's a good question. I would say design. Just coming out of college as a designer, that was really my focus: web design, UI, UX. But I got really good advice early on from somebody that I was interning with. Actually, his name was Ryan, and he said, keep in mind that most people put minimal design effort into every corporate document and every corporate presentation. I didn't necessarily find that true with presentations. It was the second part of what he said. And most people are limited by their own abilities to design things, which thankfully tools like Canva and whatnot have helped, because some folks have no design eye, some folks have a great design eye. But he said, don't be afraid to put that design towards anything you're giving to a higher up, anything that you're presenting in front of a group. He's like, spend too much time making it look good. So I did. And that really did help, because people have commented on that and still do. Hey,
So
this
he said,
document doesn't need to be pretty, but it's really
sorry
pretty.
for an interruption. So he said, spend too much time to make it look good.
He said, spend what you might consider to be too much time making the document or making the presentation look good, look pretty, look aesthetically
Interesting.
pleasing. He's like, you don't want to visually fatigue people with things, and just gave me really good. It was just really, it ended up being good corporate advice, because he's right. Most people don't, because most people don't have design sensibilities or a reason to do that. But even when a Word document, even if it's just well formatted and consistently formatted, and there's a couple colors and you've used some effort, people can tell and people appreciate it. I would say that's the number one. Number two would be data. And those are completely opposite ends of the spectrum in a lot of people's minds. But the ability to manipulate data in Excel, in SQL Server or MySQL or any relational database, or whatever your weapon of choice is, being able to having people send me 9 spreadsheets that were all similar data but not normalized, and just not having to go externally and ask questions or bother other people with it, be able to do that, to just normalize it, harmonize it, dedupe it, and then get it into a format that's usable by everybody. That has been appreciated like I would have never, ever just thought when I was putting the time into learning those skills, because I was learning them for programming purposes. But the ability to do that and to understand data and manipulate data, because it's a skill that people genuinely appreciate, and something that not everybody is going to have. Not everyone needs to. But even if you're in a role where you don't think you're going to need that, even just taking a basic Excel course, learning pivot tables, learning VLOOKUP, learning how to do deduplication, learning how to do data correlation, it just comes in handy. It really does. So that I would say that's probably the second. And then the third is probably obvious, but like public speaking. Public speaking terrifies a lot of folks. I mean, I was lucky. I was a communications major. I'm a natural ham. I don't mind getting up in front of folks. But even people that are super shy and normally wouldn't be comfortable in that role, just bust out of your comfort zone. Take a little bit of time to, get coaching. Even take a volunteer class or a group or something where it's literally just people getting up there and speaking to as soon as you're not afraid, basically, as soon as you drop that fear and have a little bit of confidence, every word you deliver just comes across a lot more authoritative. So I would say that's probably the third one. So make sure you pay attention to your design, even just a little bit, and people appreciate it. Be able to manipulate data at any level that's going to have any business productivity, and just be able to confidently speak and express yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, as a marketing, as a CMO, I think having those skills are essential. Knowing design, understanding data. I mean, I think a lot of marketing people act like they know things about marketing, but they don't understand data. And especially marketing data. Most people, what I've seen is like when you give them data, they don't know what to do with it. Right? Like
That's
you
the
give them
thing.
website data, Google Analytics data, and they have no clue what they should do with that data. They're like, all right, you had, 1,000 visitors on your website, and here's your top landing page. And they just don't know what to. I think what I'm trying to say is making sense of data is a real skill. that not many people have.
It is, and it's needed in marketing. And one of my favorite marketing quotes ever, I don't remember what it was, either a GE Digital Summit or a Dreamforce. It was something like that, and it was Beth Comstock, who at the time was the chief marketing officer, I think, for GE. And she said, marketers, we don't need every marketer to be a data scientist, but every marketer now needs to understand data, its place in our ecosystem, and essentially how, I'm paraphrasing now, but and essentially how to use it to better engage audiences. And this was 15 years ago. So at the time, like, every marketer needs to understand data was like, are you sure? And I was sitting in the back of the room like, yeah, believe me, every marketer does need to understand it, because you would show a team a dashboard and half of them wouldn't even understand what they were looking at. And even coming out of college, not understanding what a basic marketing dashboard looks like, with a funnel, with early and late indicators, and needing that concept explained to you of what this is. That was a problem. I don't think we have that problem now. I think most college programs and just educational programs have caught up. But that was a very prescient comment by Beth, because that's the reality of where we are right now.
Interesting. Yeah, understanding me. I think my guest yesterday, Adam Callanan, they built a software called Pentane, and what those guys do is you just plug in your data through API for different softwares that you use, and then they give you feedback on what you should do. It was a really cool concept on what these guys are doing. So you would like hook up your QuickBooks, Stripe, Google, you name it, whatever you got, you hook it up, and these guys will be like, here's what you need to do to fix your business.
Prescriptive.
Like
I like it.
for example, it's very prescriptive. Like they hook up, let's say, your Google ads or Facebook ads, and it will tell you how much you need to increase or decrease your budget to break even. Right? It's like, oh, that's really neat, because
it's interesting.
most
And AI has been getting more useful like that, right? It's been going from more of the just like generative, and that's basically what it was. It was generative for a while. It was maybe doing some research and confirmation of stats and things like that. But now it's becoming actually actionable, semi-autonomous in some ways, some fully autonomous in some ways, which can be scary. But we're seeing the operationalization. That's not a word. It's being operationalized.
So funny, they haven't even started adding AI yet.
They haven't added AI into that process yet?
Math formulas.
So
he was saying they are working on AI, but not yet.
Okay, so that's not doing context. That's doing it just based on probably
numbers and
best practices. Interesting.
Yeah, mathematical formulas on what to do to break even. So which was all right. I mean, as soon as I think that he said they're working on adding AI, but it's coming. But AI is changing things in ways that is just unlike the speed of software development and creation. I was just telling to my buddy yesterday, and probably on the show yesterday, we developed a software in a week that would have typically taken us 7 months with an experienced senior full-time developer.
Wow. That's impressive.
Like ready, finished, error-free, launched within a week.
Wow. And what was that? What was that concept?
It was a WordPress plugin.
Okay.
And we just done. Well, we hooked it up to our AI tool. We also have an AI tool that handles calls, incoming and outgoing calls. But we've been it's been interesting.
I'm working with a platform actually that is doing just that for high net worth investors, targeting high net worth investors with AI, both inbound and outbound. Dynamic profiling, script injection, things like that, which is, that's happening all over the place. But the application of it with the social channels, with the email channels, it's maturing. It's maturing rapidly, and there's a lot of confluence of ideas that are manifesting. The ideas originated in different ways, and we're kind of finding what's the best way to go about this. Because I had a conversation with a chatbot the other day. I was talking to this. I don't remember what name they used. Julia. It was a female name and avatar, and it took me a couple minutes, and it did something that was like, am I speaking to a person or an AI? And they're like, you're speaking with a blah, 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 virtual SDR. And I was like, oh, wow. And I immediately booked a demo because it was incredibly impressive. It had clearly scanned
Yeah.
public information about me and had some
Yep.
specific knowledge and was relating it. It was really nice. So it's just very, very rapidly iterating. And also with all the LLM development, I mean, DeepSeek put a scare into everybody. And like, yeah, of course there's a lot of consternation about China and IP and, privacy concerns and whatnot, but just, man, the ability to learn to teach an LLM like that for such a reduced cost, whether those methods were stolen from OpenAI and all the others that stole data from everybody else, like it almost doesn't matter. I think we're going to see scaling multipliers like that now within LLM development. And now that we're figuring out how to get the agents in front of them and build things like LLM mesh layers behind those agents, where the agent can decide which LLM is going to be the best for this task, or evaluate multiple responses for what's going to be the best one, or use that for error checking against one another to make sure one's not hallucinating something. All of that is just iterating so quickly and just evolving so quickly. It's an exciting time to be in this space.
It is. It is, and it's moving and improving at a speed that we're having a hard time catching up.
Well, and that's what
Yeah.
AI experts, right? I did not consider myself really an AI expert launching this agency, and then just having conversations with people and especially marketers. And that's what led to the marketing book about AI. There's not nearly as much adoption as I thought. And we were adopting AI, I think, fairly efficiently at McFadden when I was there. It's only been out for practical purposes for marketers for what, like 2 years, maybe. The early chat GPT was useful for some stuff, but it also hallucinated statistics. And when you asked it to reason anything, it was terrible. And now it can do some of that stuff, but it's really most useful, and most businesses are getting scale from the code writing, from, content generation and summarization and things like that. But now we are starting to see even marketers operationalize it, right? Having tools that you just mentioned, optimizing your spend, doing click optimization, click bid optimizations, and things like that. SEO optimizations on your website. What traffic's coming in? What are you ranking for? What are you not?
Yeah.
Operational things, making actionable suggestions. That's what we're now seeing.
100%. Yeah, no, it is doing wonders, and there's more and more coming out every day, and there
Like
are
Conforma
it is good.
coming out Monday.
Conforma, oh yeah, and then and what I love about what's happening is, like, there is a real competition going on around the world, where it's not like US doesn't have the monopoly on AI anymore. There is China, there's other countries, and they're all working together, competing, which is amazing because they have to now speed up the process of getting better and improving and becoming more powerful and doing more useful stuff.
Oh yeah, it's the pressure to innovate is just
It's
multiplying
on.
as more players come into the space.
It
And
is game on.
it's just really exciting. And honestly, the next level is something like a startup that I'm working with in an advisory capacity called Moonnox, MOONNOX. They're essentially sitting as at the center of a professional services organization, acting as the operating system. And I mean, you can RFP responses automated, right? Completing contracts can be probably not fully automated, but very, very close. An agent will listen into a call and not only give you notes from it, but also let you know, against the scope that the customer is talking about for the project, did they just say anything that's out of scope, that's a potential change order, or that's a potential red flag to discuss with them in the future? Like this is now getting into automated. They're essentially working as other employees. And that level is the most exciting to me, where it's operating at that level, which is like, if you look up Harvey.ai for law firms, that's what this Moonnox concept is for pretty much any consultancy professional services org. That is really where we're going. And I was just saying, like, it's getting to the actionable insights, the point with like a Conforma, where it is actually automating things for you. Moonnox is then the next, and Harvey.ai is the next, where it's the operating system of the business actively involved in every key point, but just adding scale to the humans. And that's what there's been this fear. Oh, AI is going to replace people. Man, AI is only going to replace people if you have no idea how to use it or work with it. It's really going to scale people. It should make one person be 1.5 times productive, not eliminate your job and replace it with AI. So that's where I'm trying to coach people as well in terms of how to look at it when they're looking to implement it in their own marketing org or full organization. It's a scaling factor, and you should look at it as such and plan for it as such.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. I mean, we got to get used to AI. It is here. It is changing the world. And I'm guessing it's changing the world for the better. There might be, I don't know, some case users for negative stuff,
Until
but
they become, self-aware and we get the matrix. Let's hope that doesn't happen too soon.
yeah. Yeah. Beauty. Thomas, do you read books at all?
I do.
Give me like a couple of your favorite books.
I'll say my favorite business book is probably Zero Moment of Truth. It's not a
Zero
new
Moment of
one.
Truth.
It was Zero Moment of Truth was a book. It was a term coined by Jim Lisinski. He was like the senior vice president of sales or I think he was VP of sales for Google at the time. And it describes the change in a consumer buying decision journey. So, or the changes and the journey, the changes of mind that a consumer goes through during their purchasing journey, basically. And what it comes down to is that there's always a zero moment of truth where you decide to purchase that product, you decide to sign that contract, you decide to, to make the purchase or sign the thing, right? You decide to take the action. And that is usually, there's anywhere from 8 to 10 key decision points that go into that. But then that applies to, are you looking at a shelf and you're deciding between 2 different brands of ketchup? Well, the final zero moment of truth might come down to which one do you visually like better? It might come down to which jingle is in your ear. It might come down to anything. It's up to the individual. Same thing when signing a contract. You're building a website. You have $1 million budget. You have to sign between SI1 or SI2, system integrator 1 or 2. You now have to make that decision. Which one of these 2 things are you signing? That comes down to that singular moment, that singular decision. And then it's the marketer's job to make sure that you're influencing that consumer in a way. And that can be in any number of tactics. When there is that zero moment of truth, that your option is the one that's preferred. And just the whole thought process behind that. That book came out, I think it was either 2010 or 2011. Just changed my mindset about content marketing, about marketing approach, about messaging approach, just about everything. And then the other one would probably be Crossing the Chasm, and I won't detail that too much because I think that's a really popular book. But that one's just genuinely useful. Just a lot of the concepts in that, in terms of getting stuck in business and just needing needing to rationalize where you are and what's going to be necessary to, and as he says, crossing the chasm, right? Whatever that chasm is for your business. Just a lot of, again, just like Zero Moment of Truth. It was a lot of it kind of flipped some switches that have stuck with me for a long time. And, there's a lot of good business books out there, but I would say those 2 are some of my favorites. And then I have to plug the 2 that I was involved in writing. If you're in the marketplace or e-commerce space, Marketplace Best Practices, that's got to be up to like 10,000 in the market by now. That actually did really well. It came out in 2021. And then marketplace monetization. If you have an online marketplace, look that up on Amazon. It's Tom McFadden's the primary author. I was one of the other authors on that. Those are 2 just good pieces that I'm very proud of.
Fantastic. Thomas, this was a great conversation. Is there a question that I should have asked that I didn't? And if I did, it would have added value to people that are watching or listening?
I don't think so. I think this was, I didn't really come on with a specific agenda. I mean, we chatted a little bit about like what was going on and make sure this flowed, but I think we hit upon everything. I just, I just like to thank everybody out there that I've interacted with, that has been a mentor to me, that has benefited me. It's been exciting launching my own agency and writing this book. And it's because I've had really good mentors and just a lot of folks that actually, took the time to care, took the time to make sure that I was learning, that I was becoming a better leader. So just thank you to all of those folks and to everybody I've worked with over the years. It's been fun, and I look forward to what comes next.
Fantastic. So, gang, if you're watching or listening, Thomas's book, the Fractional CMO Playbook, is coming out on April 29th, 2025. Keep an eye on it. And Thomas, where can people find out more about you and reach out?
So check out OnCallCMO.us. That is the website for my agency. That links to my LinkedIn profile. Feel free to look me up on LinkedIn. Just Thomas Gaydos, On-Call CMO. Feel free to connect. And I hope you do. And I hope to talk to you soon.
Beautiful. Gang, Thomas, thank you very much. This was a great conversation. We talked about a lot of good stuff. Gang, if you have any questions for me or Thomas, feel free to put them in the comments of the show that wherever you're watching, and we'll get back to you. And reach out to Thomas at oncallcmo.us if you have any questions. I'm guessing you could reach out to you. They could reach out to you on LinkedIn as well.
That is
Am I
correct.
wrong?
That is
Yeah,
correct.
LinkedIn and his website. And then, so you've been watching and listening another episode of the Executive Hub Show. Yours truly, Mustafa Hosseini, and my guest, Thomas Gaydos. Hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you on our next episode. Bye now.
Thank you.